Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another Walking Dead video. Today is a video that I had thought about doing for a while, and I just kind of wanted to, sit on the idea of it and just think about what the video could really entail. But this video is a subject video, kind of a let's chit chat discussion type video about Tobias from Fear the Walking Dead. And as we know, Tobias was a very short-lived character who was in the first season, I want to say episode 2 roughly. And then he was introduced as being this kid who could see what was coming. He was introduced as walking into the school on the day of outbreak before everything kind of really went down. And then he came in and he was going through the metal detectors. He got picked up because he had that knife in his pocket. And Madison kind of swooped in to save him from being expelled or anything like that. Took him to the guidance counselor's office and talked about the problems he had previously with other students, people bullying him and whatnot, and he reassured her that is not the reason he had this knife, because everything that was going on, everything that was online, things that he was hearing, things that he was seeing as far as what was going on in the world as it began to fall apart. And so we get introduced to this kid who is very smart, I believe, from the get-go, who is not just going to believe what he's being told. He's researching this, and I think there might be some kind of survivalist, doomsday kind of influences around home, maybe, because of what he does later in the episode to prepare for what is ultimately the end of the world. But as we meet this kid, as Madison is kind of questioning him about why he has the knife, is it because you were bullied by this kid, or he turns out that he's tutoring this kid that once bullied him and just trying to get information out of him, trying to connect with the kid about what's going on. We just really see behind the curtain of what he sees, which is the world is ending and he's trying to prepare for it and he's trying to learn how to survive. And it's just an interesting character that was brought in just to be dismissed so quickly, and then we never heard from him ever again. And he had some really interesting characteristics as being this survivor that you wouldn't realize was a survivor, I guess. And that's just something that I always loved about that character, regardless of the very limited screen time that he had within that episode and this series all around. And it was just one of those, what I believe was a completely missed, wasted opportunity that they could have done with this character to give him real justice. Because as the episode progresses on, as Madison tries to connect with him and ultimately lets him out of the office without reporting what she had found and just kind of planning this change and everything in his pocket to get him through that security and this and that. And we see that Madison does care about this kid. She does want to see him survive whatever he's going through, whether it be bullying, and just kind of really being, she is trying to be as realistic as possible as he's describing to her what he's seen online, what he's been hearing about these reports of this illness that's spreading across multiple states and people are killing other people and this and that, and just really trying to get in that mindset, I think, that something is troubling this kid, but it's not what he thinks it is, but just to turn it around, he's trying to convince her what's really going on. She doesn't want to believe him. And so it's just many layers to this kid within this short time frame that we get him on screen. So as the episode progresses, we see him get dismissed, and then we do end up seeing him one more time before the episode ends, because that is the day of the global outbreak where everything starts to fall apart. And just when we meet this kid, he has a couple of one-liners that I really have, that I really ran with, that I really found interesting. And I actually did a paper about apocalyptic type settings back in college, and one of his lines that I ended the paper with, and by the way, I got an A on that paper, I think because of that line.
When civilization ends, it ends fast.
And I always just thought that was an amazing line for that character, and just an amazing line in general. And just seeing the mindset that this kid's in, we see him later in the episode as Madison goes back to the school after they've been dismissed, after this mystery fever or what have you is spreading, so they let the kids all leave, and just seeing these different things pop up on the news. So Madison comes back to the school because she knows that there's a stash of confiscated drugs, and she wants to take these back to her son Nick as he's suffering from withdrawals, because as we know, when we were introduced to Nick, he is an addict. He's a very troubled kid. He never really quite recovered from the death of his father. And so he turned to hard drugs like, a lot of people do when they suffer a loss like that. So she goes to the school, and this is where we run into Tobias again. And Tobias is on top of it. He understands what he has to do to survive. He's there. You think he would be out in the world causing trouble with everybody else, causing these riots and everything, being this kid, but he just has this mindset and this way of thinking that this is what I have to do to survive. So he goes back to the school, and he starts raiding the canned food supplies within the school, and he runs into Madison, and this is where they see their first walker, which is the principal. And he does also go back there for his knife, which is kind of silly because the knife that he goes back for is just like a paring knife. It's nothing really even that terrifying, I guess. It's just this short little, 2-3 inch paring knife that really won't do a ton of damage, but he feels safe with it, so he goes back for it. And as he's gathering food and as Madison's trying to get to these confiscated drugs, and this is where they run into the principal, and we just see again a side of this kid's survival instincts. And I guess what I'm trying to get to through all this video, or trying to describe the character, is just how much they fucked up by not bringing back this character. As we know, again, he was in this episode, very limited screen time, and the last thing we saw of him was Madison dropping him off at home, and she's trying to convince him, hey, you can come with me. You can come stay with me and my family, and we will help keep you safe. And he decides not to do that. He wants to be with his own family, and then we never see him again. And that's just one thing that's really never sat well with me, and never really sat well with the fan base, I think, where this was a very interesting character. We got to see many sides, many layers of this character within a short time frame of that episode, and then he was just gone. And I just really think it was a huge missed opportunity because, as we know, as Fear the Walking Dead ended, we got the return of Troy Otto, played by Daniel Sharman. And, he was a great character for that time frame, for season, I think was 2, 3, somewhere around there. He was introduced as this military guy that was performing experiments, just a real sadistic person. And then it turns out he's part of a survivalist type family. They have this ranch that's out in the middle of nowhere. They have weapons, they have food, they have all types of supplies. He ultimately gets himself into some trouble, and Madison decides that he is not worth the risk. And she, what we thought at the time, killed him. She took a hammer to his head and left him in this dam that was set to explode, and that was what we thought would be the end of him. But he made this miraculous return at the end of Fear the Walking Dead, and that's just, I really think they could have made the better choice to bring back Tobias, to see how he survived, how he fared in that world. Could he have been a villain, or just could he have been the leader of another survival group? Could he have ascended to that level of being a survivor, that so much that he is a leader of an entire group? Did he pay the ultimate price and just not make it? And that's just one of the big gripes, I think, with the fan base, is this is a character that knew shit was going down. He knew things were falling apart. He couldn't trust what the system was telling him. He tried to convey this to Madison. She didn't believe him. So he knew that it was really up to him to survive, and he was going to gather food. And he told her exactly how things were going to go down. Servers for internet and electricity would fail because there's nobody there to man those systems. Satellites would fail for the same reason. And people would begin to riot. They would hit liquor stores. They would hit pharmacies. They would hit grocery stores, of course. And they would hit all these different varying degrees of stores and locations to find supplies, to gather, to survive and everything. And he was just a very smart kid. He was just very wise beyond his years as far as this was concerned. So that's what led me to believe that he had to have come from maybe a prepper family. Maybe he had access to an actual doomsday shelter, and he fared and he lived throughout many years of the apocalypse. But it just seemed to me that it was silly that he was never brought back because of the impression that this actor made playing this character. It was completely wasted opportunity. And I really think that it's something that the fan base, amongst many other things, never really forgave Scott Gimple and them for not bringing him back, for not exploring this character more, as he could have just been someone, just a total badass for the most part. He could have come back and just been an amazing character, but they decided to move along and bring back the far less likely survivor of Troy Otto, who to this day doesn't make sense of how he survived being cracked across the skull with a hammer and left in a dam that was set to be destroyed. And how he managed to get out of that, we don't know. I mean, other than what the story offered and everything. So anyways, that's just a video that I had been thinking about doing for a while, diving in, exploring Tobias as a character and just the missed opportunity that we got with him as far as him never returning. And it's just, I think, one of the many mistakes this franchise has made. Although I love this franchise, I love these, different story arcs and everything that they explored, there's been undoubtedly a lot of dumb moves made by the creative team where we could have had so much more interesting storytelling. But anyways, guys, that is just my little rant / discussion video that I wanted to do with you guys. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, of course, subscribe to the channel, help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and be sure to turn on those notifications as I do try to drop multiple times a week. But until next time, guys, take care. Bye.